support business process improvement related things, pretty broad range of services to help support the business community in DC. You can go to the next, objectives. Okay, so what we'll be talking about here today, we'll be addressing the business plans, business plan development, federal and commercial proposal development, federal business development, as well as a broad range of certifications and GSA schedules and business process improvement. One of the things I wanted to do in actually working through this content was really focusing on some of the sentiment that we get from our executive director and associate director of the DC SBDC, Carl Brown and Charles Mott, respectively. They both are really focused on providing services to the business community, and they emphasize that we want to provide services to the community, but we also want to prepare companies for success beyond our direct activity. So what Carl's mentioned more than once, I'm sure you probably heard the cliche before, you can provide fish to a man for a day, or you can teach him how to fish. So what I want to do right now is really walk the line between providing the services and identifying things that we can do for you directly, but also providing you with some information that's going to help you, even if you decide that working directly with the organization is not where you need to be right now. You can at least walk away with some content that's helpful to you, and you can get some value from. You can go to the next slide. There you go. Okay. The business plan is where it all starts. I'm sure you've probably all heard the quote, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. It's very, very true in business. You make your life a lot more challenging if you don't plan properly. The business plan, if you've done research, whether it be via Google, whether it be you've purchased books online, most of these topics or these sections of what a business plan should include are probably familiar to you. Everything from the title page all the way down to the financial components. But one thing that's not necessarily addressed that is a little bit harder to get a feel for in thinking about your business plan, you're not just, there shouldn't be an activity where you're just looking to check a box. I think the mistake that people often make is they say, I heard I need a business plan to start my company. I've got a great idea. I want to move forward with it quickly. I need to get a business plan. So in doing that, they'll identify the subject, the categories that are needed to develop the business plan, but then they'll fly through it. And then in a weekend's time, they've got what they call a business plan that hits these basic areas, but they haven't really drilled down in any depth to really get true value out of their business plan. So what we want to do is really emphasize in our role as counselors. Again, it's really about to provide a service for you that is not to the level of us writing a business plan for you. You wouldn't come to us and say, hey, look, Kelvin, I need a business plan. I want to open a t-shirt shop. I want to open an ice cream parlor. Write a business plan for me. You wouldn't want that from me. What you want from me and the service that I and my teammates can provide for you is helping you think through what should go into a business plan. So being critical about the different sections that are involved in that plan, whether it be looking at your competitive analysis, whether it be scrutinizing your financial projections, whether it be looking at your management overall organization structure and how you've laid things out and helping you think through what makes sense and what doesn't. Our whole idea is really we want to be counselors to you and kind of help you think through that entire process. So we don't go into it and say your business plan should be 10 pages or your business plan should be 60 pages. The whole objective for us is to work through and think through this business plan process with you so you get value out of it. So you've ultimately thought about all the scenarios and all the content that you think is going to be critical to help ensure your success. Still understanding that, as you start business, there's going to come a time when you work through this full business plan, whether you've said, okay, this is a business plan focused on just getting started and thinking about my 5 out years, or you've developed a business plan with the idea that I'm looking for investors, or I'm looking for financial support from a bank. I'm looking to obtain a loan. All those things are going to go into how you approach that business plan. So for instance, if you're just developing a business plan for yourself, you may work through all these, all 9, 10 bullets. You've got plans that say, okay, you need 6 sections. Other recommendations say you need 9 to 11. You address various different, at various different levels. But in the end, you have to figure out what the objective of this plan is. And then once you've gotten to a point where you've drilled down and you've thought through everything that you can, at some point you're gonna open your doors. You say, okay, I know enough to get started, but still you have to understand that the business plan is an exercise to get you to think through things, but still understanding that once I get started, there are going to be things I encounter that my business plan development process has hopefully prepared me for, to be able to make adjustments where needed. But I will need to make adjustments. So I think my point is that I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed with the idea of the business plan being something that has to answer. There are two things. One, it doesn't go deep enough, where you've addressed your business plan in a weekend, or you spent so much time in the business plan that you've paralyzed yourself so you can't move. You've got to find that medium in between to say, okay, I need something that's going to help me, drive me, to get the full benefit out of everything, and out of thinking through everything that I can, and then moving on from there. But fundamentally, this is the content that you should be thinking about as you work through your business plan. And again, working with our group, these are the things that will help walk you through. Just bouncing questions off of. So Daniel, you can actually go to the next slide. Part of this process is in really thinking through your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and your threats. Many of you may have heard of SWOT analysis. That is essentially what this is. It's the analysis of thinking through your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and the threats or barriers to your success. The logic involved ties back to your business plan, because the thought process and thinking through these four different categories are going to go into how you look at your competition, how you look at your marketing, people that you bring into your management and your organizational structure, all those things, and help you hopefully prepare you for success. What I did here, I just put a couple of sample items in there, just kind of think through the different categories. So strengths, for instance, your strength might be, you may be a small business, but you feel like the management reputation in the marketplace is something that's a huge benefit to your company. Maybe you've got an executive who's got a broad range of experience. He's had corporate jobs and working at the Fortune 50 companies. And he really does he or she does have a really great reputation in the industry. But at the same time, when you move over to your weaknesses, this may be a small or medium or small or emerging small company. And you've got a great reputation at a level, at the management level in your organization, but it's one of your weaknesses that you don't have experienced workers. You've got great management level experience, but you don't have you don't have the bandwidth to deliver on some of the things that you need, and you understand that. Identifying those kinds of things is going to be helpful to you as you think through how you market your business, how you plan for success, and all those kinds of things. Opportunities. You may have recognized an area of business where there's a gap, whether it be development of new technology, whether it be new services that you've identified, something that you bring to the market that's different than what's out there currently. That may be a huge opportunity for you, but then you move over to your threat section. Maybe you're an emerging small business. Maybe you've had some of those business certifications that'll have allowed you to be successful for a time, but now you graduated from the 8A program, or you haven't been able to, some of the set aside opportunities or some of the certifications that you've used to generate success in the past. Maybe those don't help you when you start to compete against a larger organization. Maybe it becomes more of a challenge. You have to think more strategically on how you approach business now, whether it means you got to think about teaming, whether it means you got to think about subcontracting, whether it means you got to think about GSA Schedule, those kinds of things, which we'll address a little bit later in the proposal content, or the presentation content. All of those things are key in thinking through how you're going to achieve success. And again, that analysis really should happen at any company, whether it be a really small company or whether it be a large company. This becomes part of the DNA of your organization to analyze these things, and whether it be on a scheduled basis or whether it be in response to things like we're dealing with right now, we're dealing with the COVID pandemic. Lots of organizations are going through this exercise right now. How can we continue to be successful given where we are in the environment today? I've got a good friend who's a personal trainer. the industry has completely changed. You know, his clientele used to be, you know, face-to-face interaction. He's worked with everyone from kids at the boys club level all the way up to professional athletes. But when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, now the dynamic of how he delivers services completely changed. So he's actually moved from delivering face-to-face interaction to now being online, now doing exercise and training routines via the web. And he's talked about how this expanded his business to the point now he's got clientele in different countries. So the pandemic has been a huge impact. It's had a huge impact on the global economy, but fundamentally what businesses are still actively trying to do is work through this SWOT analysis, think through the process of determining how to achieve success despite where we are right now, which is a huge challenge, but that's something that we're all facing right now. So that's where we are with that. So in terms of counseling services, this is something we would kind of help you think through and work with you on as well. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. Okay, and actually the title of that slide should actually be that's my apologies. This is not part of the SWOT analysis. This is actually the breakdown of a federal proposal. So I'm kind of shifting gears. I'm trying to cover a lot of content in a short period of time, but the list of the sections that you see here, this is the basic. This is the section breakout of federal RFP. So in this breakdown, and if you look at this, the reason I've bolded some of the content that you see here, so I can't see some of it's blocked off my screen, but what you see here, all the content in the RFP is important, but the sections here address very specific things that kind of help you get your marching order, so to speak, and how you address and how you develop proposals. So for instance, if you look a little bit towards the bottom, you see, well, let's take it to the top. You see the solicitation cover that's going to give you some of the basic information about the deadlines. Section C is going to give you your scope of work, the work that needs to be done in the proposal. And if you look below that, you see the other sections: attachment J, K, L, and M. And this is when you're going to get your information, the requirements for the RFP, and help you drill down and focus on what is the RFP actually asking me to do. You've got to remember that in developing a proposal, it's not a creative writing exercise. You might be a fantastic writer, but when you look at RFPs, whether it be a federal solicitation or a commercial solicitation, they want very specific content addressed, and they want very specific requirements addressed in those documents. So being able to succinctly address the requirements that are identified and understanding what the factors of evaluation are going to be critical to your success. I did see one question pop up, and my apologies. I know there's a broad range of businesses on the call. RFP is a request for proposal. So in the DC area, oftentimes you have, it's a government contract in town. So I wanted to hit a couple of different things that address a lot of different businesses. So the request for proposal is what the government or commercial business might issue when they say, you know what, we're looking for someone who can provide this type of service. So they'll issue a request for proposals to the business community. And that request is what drives you to generate a proposal. So in doing that, the government's going to issue the RFP, the request for proposal. It's going to have this section breakdown, requesting content for you to deliver to the government agency. Or again, commercial businesses also have those, also issue RFPs, but they aren't necessarily structured as consistently as what you see here. This is the federal breakdown. I use this example because this is going to follow the government's rule. Commercial business, they're a little bit more loose in how they develop those, but fundamentally the same content is typically requested. But if you understand how to work through a federal proposal and what's required and the thinking process involved in addressing the requirements, understanding one, it's not a creative writing exercise. They're looking for very specific and targeted information to be addressed. And they're giving you the factors for evaluation to help you understand that I'm looking for this information. This is how I'm going to evaluate your proposal when you submit that to me for evaluation. So just thinking through that whole process is going to be helpful in determining what your success is in pursuing business with the federal government or larger commercial entities. You can, and my apologies for not being able to drill down specifically in every single category. Again, we're trying to address a lot of content here. So in I guess it's follow up to the presentation here. If you ever want to reach out to me or anyone in the group, you can reach out to us via the DC SBDC portal. But you can go to the next slide, Danielle.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, Kelvin?
Yes.
Okay, so everyone, I just wanted you to know, so our other case study, our other guest is on the phone. He was having problems logging in, and looking at the emails, several people have problems logging in. So it's not on our side, it's on the Zoom side. I also wanted to ask you to go ahead and ask your questions in the chat. And we will have—
Darryl, I'm on now.
Hey, Darryl.
I'm on the phone, so I couldn't log in. Just let me know when you're ready for me to present.
Absolutely will do. So we've got Darryl, that's good. We've got Kelvin, that's great. We're going to keep pushing through. I just wanted to let you know we are going to save some time at the end for Q&A. So go ahead and ask your questions in the chat feature. Kelvin and I will keep up with them. And Darryl, if you have questions for Darryl as well, we'll keep up with them. So go ahead and ask those questions there. We are going to save time, I promise you, for Q&A. And some of you have asked if the slides are going to be available. They will be available to everyone who's registered, as will a recording be available to everyone who's registered. But I did want you to go ahead and take notes if there's something that you wanted to ask while we have our presenters with you live, if you wanted to ask them. And then, as Kelvin said, if it gets a little bit too overwhelming and you think you need some one-on-one consultation, please do sign up at dcsbdc.org. We have several subject matter experts that are here to help you through the process. I know that as you all are starting out or pivoting because of COVID, this can be overwhelming. Kelvin is doing his best to give you a lot of information in a truncated amount of time, but we are here to service you beyond the webinar. Please do take notes. Please do take questions. Please ask questions, and Kelvin, kicking it back over to you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you for emphasizing that, Daniel. Like I said, there's a lot of content we're trying to address, and also there's a broad range of content. I know some companies, some businesses right now, they're on the call just trying to get information on how to get started. But then you got other businesses that have been in business for a while and are looking for ways to think strategically beyond getting started. So we're trying to, like I said, do a lot in a relatively short period of time. So my apologies if we can't address everything or go quite as deep as we'd like to in a lot of these categories. But again, we're trying to address a lot of needs quickly. But again, we are, at the end of the day, we're here to support you and service you. And like I said before, we want to help you be successful beyond our direct interaction. So with that, I'll jump back in. So in business development, especially for government contractors looking to do business with the government, it's very, very important for you to think about a lot of different things. So you're trying to manage your business, but you're trying to figure out how to win new business, of course. What I try to emphasize to people starting or new to the federal side of business development, take advantage of the tools that are available to you. Agencies, they post their procurement forecasts online. So for instance, if you went to HHS, the Home Health and Human Services website right now, or after this call, you could find their procurement forecast for this year and probably next year. That's going to give you a broad insight into what they think is important. That in addition to that, they're also going to have their active and expiring contract lists. That's going to tell you what contracts are active right now and when those contracts expire. Not just when they expire, but they also give the information for the incumbent contractors that are providing those services, as well as the total value of those contracts in most cases. So there's a lot of information out there, but you have to do your due diligence and actually digging it and finding that information. A big part of that also is building relationships. The Office of Small the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business Utilization, they call those the OSTBU departments, and they have vendor outreach sessions where you can actually go in and have direct contact with the agency representatives. Those are very, very important. Oftentimes people look at those as just another meeting, but if you go into that meeting prepared, to talk about what you provide as a service. You go with your capability statement, and ready to do business. The agencies will recognize that and will give you good feedback on how to position your business for success within your organization. At the end of the day, they've got target dollars they're looking to spend with small businesses, 8A certified businesses, hub zone businesses, women-owned businesses, small service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. So you've got to go into that with the right mindset and understanding that this is an opportunity for me to develop and locate and locate potential opportunities and push those forward. So you got to take those things seriously. Also, you have to be open to potential teaming and subcontracting opportunities. We all want our business to be as successful as possible and get as much of the pie as we can in terms of new opportunities. But you also have to keep in mind that 100% of nothing is nothing. So if you're completely against subcontracting and teaming to the detriment of your organization, where to the point where you're not willing to structure your team, you're not willing to position your company for success because you aren't willing to work with other people that might strengthen your opportunity or your business bandwidth, then you're really hurting yourself. So be open to teaming when necessary, be open to subcontracting when appropriate, and look for those opportunities, like I said, and use the tools available to you. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. Trying to watch the time. I don't want to take up too much time and leave Darryl enough time. Next slide, business certifications. There are lots of certifications in doing business. The one I'm going to focus on right now, well, let me just take a pause. So many of these certifications are self-certification opportunities. So you can go to the SBA's website and certify yourself as a woman-owned business, a small business, a small disadvantaged business. But in order to get those certifications like the 8A hub zone, you're going to need to submit paperwork, get approved, and actually obtain a certification that, in case of the 8A program, is going to be there's going to be a term associated with that. So a 9-year term. Take that very seriously. When you think about the 8A program, be prepared to do business day one. Don't get that certification if you're not ready to function in the government contracting space. You don't want to spend your first 4 years of that certification trying to figure out how to do business, and then now you've got 5 years left, and you graduate from that program, and you're done with that. So you want to prepare and prepare yourself for success in the program, and then after you graduate, you can go to the next slide. Danielle, I know I'm tight on time, and I want to give time to Darryl. GSA schedules. Many of you have heard of the GSA Schedule program. It's potentially a 5-year term program with 3 5-year options. So it could potentially be a 20-year program that exposes you to new opportunities, potentially with the federal government. The government can find you via this GSA Schedule program and direct business your way. But of course, it kind of goes back to you taking those opportunities seriously and marketing your service. The biggest mistake that I've seen people make, whether it be the certification or the schedule, they get those certifications or those schedules, and they think their phone is just going to start to ring because they've obtained those vehicles. That's not the case. You need to actively market yourself, actively market your services, and be prepared to do business and be successful and impress the organizations that you're working with. But here's a list of questions. You can read through that again. The slides will be available to you, but I don't want to read those to you. But some key questions to ask as you're thinking about whether the GSA Schedule program is right for you. You can go to the next slide, Danielle. Business process improvements and pivots. Again, I think we're right now dealing with the COVID pandemic. We're all right here. Whether it be a new business, you're getting started, you probably had to think about how you're going to be successful in a different way than you probably had previously. If you're an active business and you've been working for a while, you have to identify new opportunities and you're looking for the opportunity to pivot. But again, fundamentally, that's part of business is understanding the environment and making adjustments. Of course, I don't want to minimize what we're dealing with right now, but the fundamental part of evaluating your company is what we constantly have to work through as a business. So in thinking through whether are you looking to pivot or improve your process for growth, or for a pivot due to some unforeseen circumstance like we're dealing with right now. Again, it goes back to SWOT analysis, looking at your business and trying to figure out where you are right now. So taking the as-is assessment of the current state of your business. Also looking at the environmental factors like the health pandemic that we're dealing with right now, and then just thinking through what does your follow-on in response to this look like? Are you designing or developing new processes, new procedures, new materials, new services, and what does that look like? How does that get integrated into your business strategy, and what does implementation look like? But in the end, the consistent theme that I push is that you really have to get to know your business, get to know your objectives, and really think through your SWOT analysis as a fundamental success driver for your business. If you understand your strengths and you're honest about what your strengths are, and even more honest about what your weaknesses are, and then I try to identify those opportunities and those threats and potential barriers to success. All those things in the process involved and all that stuff is going to help drive your success long term. So that said, I don't want to take up too much time. I want to turn it back over to you, Danielle, so Darryl has an opportunity to speak.
Okay, this is Calvin's contact information, but you can also, again, get in touch with him for one-on-one free counseling. I cannot emphasize enough how wonderful it is that DCSBDC is offering free counseling. So this is his information, but you can also get in touch with him through DCSBDC. And what you can do is either register, which we would prefer on the DCSBDC website, or you can go ahead and email Kelvin and he'll set up a time for you via the site. All right. So Darryl, we've got Darryl on the phone. I'm going to unmute him. Hey, Darryl, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So
I'm here.
Wonderful. Sorry you were having difficulty. I've gotten about 10 emails from people that have not been able to get on the Zoom. I suggested that they all called in, so hopefully they're on the call. I see that we do have an uptick in phone calls. There are 42 people on the line registered via the website, and then we've got about 10 or 11 people calling in, which is a little bit of an uptick. So anyway, I wanted you guys to meet Darryl. I think he has a very interesting story. He's gone through the entire process several times over that Kelvin has explained to you. Kelvin, don't go anywhere because we may have some questions as well.
I'm here.
Okay, good. So, and I just wanted to introduce you to Darryl so that he could talk to you about the process of how he got started and then how he pivoted. I think it's a fascinating success story in terms of how he got started and then how he pivoted his company to come out of the other side of COVID-19. And hopefully you guys will find some inspiration in what he shares with us today. So Darryl, take it away.
Thank you so much, Danielle and Calvin. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Absolutely. So I wanted to start off by saying I am a little bit disheartened that I'm not able to be on the Zoom conference, because I think when we're talking about issues that are this important, that we need to be able to look at one another and gauge whether there's a true understanding for the information that's being conveyed. So I look forward to us being able to do this again when we can get the Zoom conference to work and I'm able to look at everybody face to face. But as Danielle said, I'm going to talk about my journey with the DC Small Business Development Center. I'm going to talk about my history with the university and where we are as a company today and how we've been able to pivot in these adverse times. So my name is Darryl Wiggins. I'm the owner of a company called Digidoc. We trade as the Public Sector Solutions Group. We've been in business for about 20 years now. We have 105 employees, and we operate in the Mid-Atlantic region, some stuff in the Midwest as well. But my journey with CBDC, I always get that acronym, it's such a long acronym. But my journey with the Howard University Small Business Development Center has been an amazing, amazing journey. When I left Xerox as an employee, and prior to that, graduating from the Howard University School of Business, I ventured out to start my own business. And as you can imagine, it's one thing to be an employee. It's another thing entirely to be a business owner. And I really needed some level of technical assistance to help me understand everything from how to manage a P&L to how to put a marketing and capability statement together, and even something as tactical as how to apply for 8A certification. So naturally, as a graduate of the Howard University School of Business, I went to the Small Business Development Center to seek help. And that help was absolutely amazing, right? So the help actually allowed me to fill out my 8A application, which allowed me to get certified as an 8A vendor, which ended up enabling me to have a 10-year contract. It was over $20 million. And that came from Howard University Small Business Development Center. They worked with me in terms of helping me understand how to build out my P&L, even to the point of when I initially started, after I left Xerox, I didn't have a line of credit or access to credit. And the first transaction that I did was to sell a printer, right? And I was trying to sell a printer to the executive office of the mayor and DC government, and the printer cost me $10,000, and I sold it for $15,000. Well, at that time, I didn't have $10,000, right? So then the Small Business Development Center introduced me to microloans, set me up with a matching session with a micro lender, right, who gave me $10,000 for the micro lending process. I bought the printer from HP 20 years ago, sold it to the executive office of the mayor and DC government, and I've been working in my own business ever since. So what I challenge everyone here is to avail yourself of these very, very important, specific, and direct resources that Howard University provides that is measure for measure. What you put in is what you'll get out of it. So it is clearly the reason why I've been in business for the last 20 years and why we've been successful. And so our journey as an organization is that we have really moved from being a hardware vendor when I first started 20 years ago, because I had an experience with Xerox, to then moving to professional services in the area of scanning, to now really moving to digital transformation, where we support 3 specific verticals. And those verticals are E&U, which is energy and utility, healthcare, and the public sector. And so these verticals have really given us an opportunity during this unprecedented time to figure out ways how we innovate and disrupt. And what
Darryl, I want to interrupt you for 1 second, because I don't want us to gloss over it. You went from a company that was scanning documents, which is Digidoc, and then you saw that there was an opportunity during COVID-19 to pivot and innovate. So I just want to make sure that people understand that when that pivot happened, he made a big pivot. It was a big pivot, and I just want to trigger the creativity in some people to hear this story of the company that he has and still has, that is very successful, and then how you pivoted once the pandemic hit.
All right. And so we actually really moved from the scanning company to a professional services integrator like an Accenture or Deloitte or KPMG about 2 years ago. It took us 2 years to make that move, and we actually paid a company to support our digital transformation, because we needed to understand that as we moved to a professional services organization that was technology agnostic, it opened up spaces where we could sell intellectual property, right? And so the greatest margins you will ever get, the greatest strategic partnerships you'll have with any of your customers, is when you evolve from being a service provider to an intellectual property partner. Right? So, when you're a service provider, you're always in what I call the commoditized realm. And any customer will always purchase the least costly commodity. So we have to always be identifying how we develop intellectual property around the service that we provide. And then that intellectual property moves us to having a strategic partnership with our customer, where we become the company that sits down with them and talks about what we call our KPIs, key performance indicators, that talks to them about the things we call OKRs, which stands for objectives and key results. So that's what a strategic partnership looks like. And you have to kind of move from being a transactional vendor to a strategic partner. And when you do that by developing two kinds of what I call expertise. It's domain industry expertise, and it's expertise for your specific vendor that you support. So we decided that we were going to develop domain expertise in three verticals. And those three verticals are energy and utility, public sector, and healthcare. And to do that, you have to develop some industry expertise. And we know that expertise starts and begins when you've had 10,000 hours of study, right? So you develop either collectively, right, or individually within your organization some subject matter expertise, but it begins at 10,000 hours of study. And you take that subject matter expertise and move it to a strategic partnership with your customers in a specific vertical that you've aligned. So we went down that path, and as we went down that path, we recognized that our margins went from commoditized margins, which were 10 to 20%, right, to margins that were 100%, 200%, because the customer was focused on us delivering their outcomes. So as we move further up the line, COVID hits, right? And the first couple of weeks of COVID, I'm going to the grocery store, right? I'm doing like everybody else. I'm hiding in the house from COVID, me and my son. And so I was on a conference call with KPMG, right? I'm one of their partners. And they had taken the CARES Act, which is basically the funding instrument for all of this COVID money, and they dissected it, and they knew where every dollar was going as it related to COVID for the next 6 months. And I said, wow, I got to move from a position of fear to a position of empowerment, right? And to really understand that it is my responsibility as the steward of this company to figure out ways to innovate and disrupt. Right, so we spent a lot of time focusing on opportunities to innovate. And for our organization, since March 31st to today, we've booked over $6 million in revenue, basically through innovation, right, through disruption and innovation. And so the spaces that we have been in that are aligned with some of the ways that people look at operating differently is we built a solution called Digidental. Remember, I said initially the name of my company's incorporated name is Digidoc, but we trade as a public sector solutions group. So we created a teledentistry solution, right? You hear people talk about telemedicine. That space is pretty crowded. So we created a teledentistry solution, went through the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office process, and that product is called Digidental. And we recognize that through synchronous and asynchronous communication and videos and being able to do online prescriptions, that we could do 2/3 of all of the dentistry work through this product called Digidental, right? And so now that states at the Medicaid level have seen an explosion in their members on the Medicaid rolls, they're looking at ways to get what we call access to care. And we've been able to increase access to care with our Digidental solution. Another solution that we built is a health risk screening solution, right? So anybody who becomes a new member in Medicaid and works with an MCO, a managed care organization, that managed care organization, like a Care First or a Blue Cross Blue Shield, has to have their health risk screening done within six months of them joining that organization. And so we realized that was that the way that they were doing it today through phone calls and in-person interviews was just an antiquated way to do it. So we built an SMS bi-directional platform that allows new members, when they enroll through Medicaid, to get a text message that comes out, right? When that text message comes out, they verify themselves with the last 4 digits of their Medicaid ID number. Then it takes them to a microsite. That microsite gives them a list of questions that they have to answer to determine their health risk. And then we do what's called stratification logic within our Microsoft Azure Cloud implementation, and then send that information directly to CMS. So it's all done through the phone. So we were able to disrupt and do that because COVID doesn't allow anybody to come in and do a health risk screening application. And we identified that doing that through the phone was the best way to do that. And the last thing that we have been able to do from a disruption perspective is we built the portal that the government of the District of Columbia uses today for PUA. And PUA stands for Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, right? So when the pandemic hit, the government through the CARES Act identified that there's a large number of people, right, who are not going to be traditional W-2 employees, so they're not going to be eligible for unemployment insurance, right? And so, but they still can't work because of the pandemic. So as part of the CARES Act, they created PUA, which is Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And so the government now has to figure out a way to allow those people to register, allow those people to receive benefits. So we once again created a Microsoft Azure implementation in the cloud and stood up the PUA portal. So now people who are not traditional W-2 employees have access to that. So what I'm saying is that there is innovation and disruption within this space. And as I got on the phone, I heard Calvin talk about it, and he talked about a personal trainer whose original model was the people he could see, and now his model is international because he's using a virtual technology to not just focus on customers within his physical proximity, but customers worldwide. So we have to see this as an opportunity. We have to identify what our value proposition is, what disruption looks like, and how we use this technology to apply it. Right? So that's just there's some short stuff that I wanted to talk about, and we have, I think, about 15 minutes left. So I want to stop here and give you all an opportunity to ask me any questions or any follow-up that you need.
All right, guys. So you can either let me know in the chat that you have a question, or you can raise your hand. Everyone is muted right now. So if you have a question, please let me know. I'll unmute you so you can ask, or you can unmute yourself. You've got to have questions. All this information that these two gentlemen have shared with you, you got it all? Nothing?
Actually, I'll position the first question just to get it started. I'll ask Darryl a question. I think he can probably speak to this and address. I think it was addressed in both of our time to speak. Darryl, can you talk to them a little bit about your time in the 8A program? One of the things I always emphasize to companies is the planning to get into the program, but also planning to exit the program, because that 9 years will fly by, and the companies that haven't prepared for what life looks like outside their program tend to struggle, because now they compete. They're 9 years, they're in the year 10. Now they got to compete against the big companies. So can you talk a little bit about that process and how you're able to kind of get in the program and planning that was involved in the graduation part of it?
So Calvin is absolutely right. Statistically, more than 70% of 8A businesses, after they graduate after 9 years, are out of business, or they end up selling their business. Because one, they didn't develop a transition plan, and two, as Calvin alluded to initially, is that they spend the first 4 to 5 years in the program understanding how to navigate it. That's one of the reasons why the SBA requires that you have 2 years of experience, unless you get a waiver successfully, 2 years of business experience before you can even apply for 8A. But you have to clearly understand where your space lies and where your alignment is before you get into the program. And one of the things that Calvin said, which is the coolest thing in the world, look at the folks who are graduating who have 5-year contracts and align yourself with them, because what ends up happening in the government, and this happens all the time, is if you're new in the program and you have 9 years and somebody's about to graduate or their 5-year contract is about to expire, they are looking for you so you can take 51% and then they can take 49%, right? So my 5-year contract, I ended up eating off of that contract for 10 years, because after my 5 years were up, then I went and found somebody who was new in the 8A program, introduced him to my COTAR, introduced him to my contract officer. He ended up taking 51% and I took 49%, and we used the same people. So the government is really looking for continuity. So if you're able to look at the forecast and see what's about to expire, and Calvin was spot on with this, and all of this information is available to you. You just go to the federal government agency, look at their forecast. They'll show you what's designated as 8A. They'll show you what's about to expire, and you call those people up and you say, I'm new in the program. I got 9 years, and you're about this contract is about to expire. I want to go with you to the COTAR and the contracting officer, right, and introduce us, and basically let them know is that there's going to be certainty of execution and continuity of operations, because we're going to use the same people. And that's all the government wants, is certainty of execution and continuity of operation. And that's a way where you can get revenue immediately as you start into the 8A program while you're trying to navigate it and figure it out.
Okay, so a couple of questions. DDI Digital Classroom wants to talk about digital media, and the company is struggling with marketing as it relates to pivoting. And so in these last few minutes, DDI Digital Classroom, there is no way I can walk you through an entire presentation of how you can pivot. However, if you get in touch with me via dcsbdc.org and schedule some time, we can walk through what that process looks like. And what I will tell you, and for those of you who are on the phone, in terms of your marketing and your outreach, as you're pivoting, to be very clear with your customers and your clients of what's happening. So they are just as stressed out as you are in many instances. And Darryl alluded to that fear factor that he had as a business owner. Understand that the people you service have that same fear as well. So you want to be very clear in terms of what your marketing is on your social channels, in terms of where you are in the process. Are you about to open back up again? Do you think you're going to be shuttered for 6 months? Are you looking at pivoting? What does that look like? So I can get in more detail. I can't do it in 5 minutes. I really appreciate the question. Obviously, it's my warehouse, so this is what I do. But let's definitely meet one-on-one, and I can walk you through the process. The same with the pivot for the child care education field. There's no way we can do that in 4 minutes, Cynthia Davis, but I do highly recommend that you go ahead and register at the Development Center, and we will get you a counselor who can help you walk through that. I do think we can answer this one though, you guys, gentlemen. So Michael Smith asks, I would like to know if the steps are the same, if you're looking to buy a small business from someone who has a well-established business, they're looking to sell because they are retiring. So are the steps that you guys mentioned the same? It seems like this person has a well-established business, they're getting ready to retire, somebody's looking to take over the business.
So this is Darryl. Well-established is, from my perspective, is a qualitative statement. I don't know, well-established, I don't know what that means, right? So the valuation process associated with buying a business is a very, very strong process that requires you to get valuation attorneys involved. You need to be able to look behind all aspects of the business in terms of debt, in terms of any legal obligations, in terms of 3 years of tax returns, in terms of contracts, that really requires you to do a significant level of due diligence associated with any valuation. So what I would caution against is just taking a one swipe approach to saying, I want to purchase something, based on just a balance sheet or an income statement. And you can go online and look at the steps of a valuation process. And once you look at the steps of a valuation process, then you will be able to align whether you have that expertise or whether you need to go out and get that expertise to do the proper valuation before you think about buying somebody.
And also to add to that, also Darryl, the looking at the long-term contracts. If you look at a business who, like say for instance, you got a company that they deal in the corporate services space or government contracting space, you want to understand, do they have long-term contracts? Where people get fooled oftentimes is they look at revenue for the past 3 years, but they don't look at what's coming up. You might have phenomenal revenue for the past 3 years, but you have no money coming in for next. Nothing's already slated to continue their business to allow the business to continue to move. So that's going to be a huge challenge for you just coming into the fold to understand the business and also generate new contracts. So you need to understand, to Darryl's point, you really want to dig in and really do some serious due diligence on understanding the ins and outs of their business. Don't get caught up in they've been in business, they're well-established business, or they've been around for a while. Because oftentimes when people sell companies, it's not just about retirement. Sometimes it's about trouble brewing that you don't know about.
Very good point.
Yeah. And so I just want to add to that, especially if you're buying an 8A firm, that when people get to year 7 and 8, they all trying to sell their businesses, because 90% of their business is based on an 8A certification that's about to go away. And unless you know that, you can be in a lot of trouble.
So we're almost out of time, but I really do want to get to this one. And this was, someone wanted you, Darryl, to explain, I just lost it, where did it go? Oh, can you go into more detail about turning intellectual property into a business?
Right, so we have to be able to monetize what we know, right? So we traditionally have always thought that you make money in performance-based businesses, right? You are a doctor or a lawyer, you're a basketball player, you're a football player. All of that is performance-based, right? And what performance-based means is then when you don't do it, you don't get it, right? And so we have never been able to translate intellectual property, which is the cornerstone of deceidency and wealth, right, into a business and how to monetize that. So the first way that you monetize intellectual property is by becoming a subject matter expert in your field. And Danielle does this probably better than anybody else in terms of creating social content and media around that. So you have to write papers, you have to contribute content, you have to be involved in the conversation to present yourself as an expert. And once you have done the level of due diligence to have some level of expertise in your field of endeavor, and you provide content and you contribute content, then you can do what we call monetize your intellectual property, which means people pay you for what you think, right? And so I've been in business for 20 years, and the last 2 years I've been in business, I'm just understanding what it means to monetize intellectual property, and my revenue is exploding. Because people will pay you more for what you think than what you can do, right? So if you look at it from the perspective of the architect, right, or the engineer and the builder, people pay that architect and engineer more than they pay that builder. People pay you more for what you think than what you can do, because people think of that third level of it as something that's commoditized. So once again, you need to develop some level of subject matter expertise by having due diligence in your study. You need to become part of a collective group that creates content around that study, and you need to make sure you publish it, and then you need to be able to monetize that intellectual property.
And I can't emphasize that enough, you guys. As a social media a specialist, I no longer do I don't remember what Darryl called it, but it's the service of social media, meaning I'm not going to do your posts. I really don't do that. That's not what I do anymore. What I do is strategy and development. So I've been able to develop courses on social media. I've been able to develop courses on using social media for advocacy, which is very popular right now as people use their platforms to talk about any number of political things that they want to support. It is a subject, and as a subject matter expert, I have been able to develop different ways to promote and sell what's in my head, my intellectual property. So sitting down and talking to me, I can walk you through everything that you need to do for your business, and that's the strategy. But we're not able to, I'm not able to anymore sit and do the community management of social because that takes so much time. And quite frankly, it's really not the best use of my time or my rate. Like it's, it doesn't make sense to pay me what I'm charging to sit down and do posts. But as a collective and as an entire package, I can work with companies on how they can strategize and train their staff on how to do social media and digital media marketing, because that's what I bring to the table, which is different from a lot of other people. I don't know if that makes sense, if that helped answer the question, but that's the difference between when you're providing a service and then when you actually are able to provide the information and the knowledge that you know out to different clients so that they can do a better job of what they need to do. And I hope that made sense. So we are at time, you guys. We're actually a little bit over. So thank you everyone who stayed. We still have 36 people in. A few people have left us, but we still have a bunch of folks in. I really appreciate you joining us. We do these webinars on Monday. The next one, we're skipping next Monday. The next one's going to be on August 3rd. So please do continue to watch the website so you can register. All of your emails are in the database. We'll be sending out information for that. I really do appreciate you staying with us and hanging in there through all of the difficulties that we've had through Zoom. I'm not exactly sure what happened on their side, but glad that you guys made it in. We really do appreciate you. We could not be who we are at the DC SBDC without you. So that stands for the DC Small Business Development Center. Without you guys, we are nothing. We are here to service you. It is a pleasure and an honor on our part as business owners to service you. We want you all to succeed. These are free services that are being offered to you for you to succeed. So we hope you do sign up. We hope that you will be able to help you through this pandemic. We understand that it's a stressful time. I thank you all for joining us. The slides will be available on the website. And as will the recording. So thank you guys. This is us signing off. Have a productive day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
Bye, Calvin.